So let's get started. Today we'll be discussing a very important step in your college journey. We'll be taking some time to think about why you might be interested in going to college, what factors you should consider when deciding whether or not you want to pursue higher education, as well as the general concerns that usually come up when thinking about college. So why college? Ultimately, it's important to think of college as a stepping stone to reaching your goals. Think about whether or not college will benefit you and your aspirations. So here's a quick little breakdown and overview of today's workshop. I'm Angela. I'm a facilitator who works with your individual coaches, who are the people from Let's Get Ready that you text. So together with your coaches, I work to support your journeys to college. We also have our moderator, Richard, here today. So Richard will be helping me out. They might be asking for your name, responding to your comments, etc. So we've just completed our icebreaker, and shortly we'll be talking about what's exciting about college. After, we'll touch on some concerns students usually have about college, such as applications, balance, and time management, adjusting to a new environment, and obviously college expenses. And finally, we'll close off with thinking about our personal motivations and reflecting on how they play a role in the college process. Before we move forward, I'd like you all to know that this is a judgment-free and safe space, so no questions or concerns are ever dumb. Feel free to stop me if anything is confusing to you or if you'd like me to explain something in a different way. I'm here and quite literally getting paid to help you, so please use that to your advantage and try to get as much out of these workshops as possible. Now that that's settled, let's move forward with this workshop. So very quickly, here's a little bit about me. I'm Angela. I'm a sophomore studying biochemistry at Barnard College with a minor in WGSS, which stands for Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies. I'm on the pre-dental track, which pretty much aligns with any other pre-health track. So feel free to ask me any questions about that in a one-on-one meeting if you're interested. I'll actually type my email into the chat if you would like to discuss more about that, but we'll also be discussing more about college payment options later on in these slides. So there is my email. Okay. So I grew up low income on Staten Island as a first generation student, and a big part of my ability to afford college now comes from many scholarships, which include the Dell Scholarship and a grant that I received from the National Science Foundation through my college. So I'd definitely be happy to help answer any questions you might have about applying to scholarships as well. So just feel free to reach out to me through email. Lastly, I was also once a Let's Get Ready student and mentee, and I got a lot out of this program. So I definitely think it's worth it to stick around and use the resources you're given through Let's Get Ready, including resources like these workshops. Okay, one more thing. We're giving away a $10 raffle gift card today. It's a Tango gift card, so you can spend it at a bunch of different places. You can earn up to 3 raffle tickets today, depending on how many of the things here that you do. So answering questions in the chat, unmuting to answer questions, and keeping your camera on during this meeting will help you get the maximum 3 raffle tickets. And the winner will be announced after the workshop via email and text. You'll also get 1 point towards our annual grand prize raffle for every workshop you attend, simply for being there. There will be 3 winners of our grand prize raffle, and the largest prize is $100. Okay, so for real this time, college excitement and common concerns. So in this section, we'll be talking about some of the reasons why people choose to go to college, as well as a few of the top concerns that students usually have about college. And the goal here is for you to get more information about some of the things you might already be thinking about, we'll also start to think about what kind of college environment you're looking for, since there are so many different options out there. So we'll start off this section with a Padlet. You can access the discussion board by scanning the QR code on the slide or through the link I'm putting in the chat right now. Okay, there we go. I'm going to screen share the Padlet board and show you guys how you can respond to the questions as well. So once you get on the Padlet, it's going to look like this, and you can answer these questions by clicking on the arrow beneath them. So in the subject, that's optional. You could put your name there if you want, but you don't have to. You can stay anonymous, and you can type your answers here. Don't be afraid to say what someone else already said or repeating something that you saw already being put down. So you can continue replying to the discussion board, but I'm seeing a lot of going to college for networking, opportunities, skill development. And those are very big reasons why a lot of people do end up going to college and wanting to go to college, especially in this economy. There are a lot of jobs that do require, like someone mentioned, a degree. Living a comfortable life, independence is something that you get out of attending college and something that people, like learn through attending college. And on the other hand, and you can feel free to continue putting down any thoughts. On the other hand, a lot of people are concerned about applications, being away from home, homesickness, mental health, fear of rejection, academic and rigor. And those are very valid concerns, but we're going to talk about it later on, and a lot of these later on in the workshop, especially like ways to overcome these intimidations. Oh, I'm seeing independence again on both sides. Independence can be very scary, and like learning how to be an adult without your parents there to like nag you in a sense. These are very good answers. Someone said financial situations, paying for student loans. I mean, I want to go to dental school, and that is also something that still intimidates me about, like applying for the loans and like the cost of going to college. But again, we're going to touch upon these points later on in the slides as well. In the same way that there are obviously a multitude of reasons for people to attend college, there may also be reasons that dissuade people from pursuing higher education, right? So these reasons will be different for everyone, but know that Let's Get Ready is always here to offer you support. Let me double check there's no more answers. Okay. So with that being said, I'll now start to talk about a few common concerns, and a lot of which were brought up in the Padlet about that students have about college, and hopefully we'll be able to bring some insight into those areas as well. So, all right. So a common concern for students is that applications are a lot of work. And we're going to start by talking about the fact that applications are indeed a lot of work, and discuss some strategies that can help make the process a lot less stressful. Oh, I need to go back. Okay. So we'll again start this section of the workshop with an activity. So Richard, if you could set up the poll for us now, that'd be great. And I'm going to have you all vote on which portions of the application process you feel intimidated by. And this poll will help me get a sense of how the group is feeling about certain tasks, and we'll also let you all hear from one another. So the poll will probably be set up in a few minutes, but the options are going to be creating a school list, the personal statement, filling out application forms, SAT, ACT, FAFSA, scholarships, and also I'm not sure or none of the above. So far, I see that all of you who have responded said FAFSA, and that is so relatable because they just opened and I also have to fill that out. And there's a lot of questions on there, but there are also like, I know a lot of high schools offer guidance on that and workshops. I know my old high school had like office hours for FAFSA. So if your school offers that, definitely do go because FAFSA is very complicated and can be like intimidating. I'm also seeing ACT, SAT. There are some schools that are staying test optional, but I know there's less now, so I totally understand that one as well. Scholarships. Sometimes scholarships are harder. I think for me, scholarships were harder to like think of answers for than college applications. At least for me, I was like, how do I say that I need money in like a roundabout way? So definitely see the concern behind that. But do feel free to reach out to your coaches or even to me. With help for that, there's plenty of resources out there. Okay. Okay. Oh, all of you chose FAFSA. There are a lot of questions, and with recent years, they keep changing the FAFSA format for some reason. Okay. These are very, very valid concerns. Okay. I know I was particularly nervous about writing my personal statement, whether it was for colleges or scholarships, because I was never very confident in my writing abilities and I didn't know what specific story or message I wanted to tell my readers. So I had a bunch of mentors, teachers, friends help me read over my essays and give me feedback on them, which I think definitely helped a lot in terms of not only improving, but also settling my nerves for a part of my college application that I was particularly intimidated by. So try to use those resources around you. We'll also be talking more about that later on in the workshop. So remember that even though this is all indeed very scary, there are plenty of resources around you that can help you with your application process. And we'll be talking more about this in the next slide. There are some important things to know. So yes, college applications are a lot of work, and it's so normal to feel intimidated or overwhelmed by certain parts of the application process. As a first-generation student, I didn't even know where to start with my college application, but trust me, it will get better, especially as you take a step back and take the time to kind of like break down exactly what you need to get done and by when. Also, note that community college applications are typically much simpler because there's usually no personal statement required, but you'd still need to complete things like the FAFSA and other paperwork, which can also be confusing and feel tedious, which is why we should all have a support system. So obviously, a support system can look different for all of us. I'd like you all to type in the chat or come off mute to share really quickly who makes up your college application support system. Share with one another who's in your little bubble of support. So let's take a few minutes for that. Do a time check. So we have some ideas on the slides as well. Oops. If you guys are having trouble thinking of answers. Ava said her parents, oldest sister. Oh, I keep moving back. So a lot of these are involving parents, family. I also have I have an older sister who went to college, so that really resonates with me. Guidance counselors, teachers, friends. Like I said, I had a lot of my friends read over my essays just because a second view is just like, it's so valuable and you should get as much as you can from that. Okay. So those are great examples of support systems you can have throughout your college application journey. Some other examples which were largely mentioned were our guidance counselors and teachers, family and friends, and of course, Let's Get Ready. So keep in mind that Let's Get Ready is also here to help you all break down the application process step by step throughout your junior year. So for example, we'll be holding workshops on some of these topics. We'll be sending guides and tip sheets or other resources to you, and you can text your Let's Get Ready coach anytime with questions that you have. So what might self-reflection feel like? The goal is for you all to start thinking about what you're looking for and what is most important to you and your goals. This will guide you through much of the college application process. For example, what majors are you interested in exploring? What kind of environment do you see yourself in? And these are just some of the important questions that you'll need to consider when applying to college. So as you are reflecting on yourself, you might ask yourself who you are, or you might already know the answer to that. You might also ask yourself questions like, what is my life? What do I like? What are my priorities? But remember that this is so exciting. This whole process is so exciting. After all, you're entering a new chapter in your life. And self-reflection is actually one of the most important steps that you'll do, because ending up at a college that's a good fit for you will set you up to be happy and finish college, which is always the ultimate goal. Let's Get Ready will also help you guide to help guide you through this process by giving you some things to consider. For example, soon we'll be asking you to think about what types of college interest you. It's also perfectly normal to have more clarity about some of your preferences than others, or to have different priorities from your peers. For example, one of my main priorities when it came to college was good financial aid and affordability in general. Since I knew I wanted to like attend dental school after graduating undergrad, but some of my friends prioritize things like location and the social scene more than that, and that is totally okay. Balancing priorities can be hard, and it's not just you who might feel that way. Actually, most people do. So we'll now be discussing some strategies for this concern in this section.
Yeah.
It's only my third day out here. I don't know.
Yo.
Okay, so obviously college is very different from high school. You're faced with a new environment and also with new expectations. A lot of students have concerns when that they won't have enough time to balance everything, like academics, fun, work, family, etc. So, but it's so normal to have these feelings of anxiety and fear. But this is also such an exciting time for you all. So try to enjoy and embrace that excitement. but also be patient with yourself throughout this process. For example, when I was trying to adjust to living alone during my freshman year, I found it helpful to multitask. Like I called my mom when cooking or when I was eating my meals, which helps me balance my life and get more stuff done. But it was also nice to just catch up with my mom whenever I felt homesick. I know someone said homesickness, living far from home in our Padlet. So that's definitely one way to go about it. I'm also a type A kind of person, so I love using my Google Calendar and Notion to organize the work I need to get done. Um, and it also makes planning hangouts with my friends easier. So balancing your social life in that sense is also very helpful. But you might have different ways to relax or manage your time, and it's so important to figure out what works best for you during college. So the reality is that balancing life in college is going to look different. It's not only going to look different between you and your friends, but it's also going to look different from life in high school in general. Academics in college are often more self-driven, and you might have to learn to make choices and prioritize what is most important to you in order to manage life in college. You might even find that you need to create new habits or even invest in new forms of community and self-support. But college is a big change and adjustment for the great majority of students. So give yourself grace and time to figure out your footing during this period. And there are also people and resources available to you to help with this transition. While the thought of balancing responsibilities in college is bound to bring up very valid feelings of anxiety, it's important to remember that you're not the first one to be scared, and you're definitely not going to be the last. So this means that you have plenty of resources and people willing to guide you through this process who have already gone through it themselves. So once you're in college, what might you be able to go to for advice about balancing academics with fun and other responsibilities? You guys can share your answers in the chat or feel free to unmute to share as well. I know this question is kind of similar to the last one, but this one is about advice giving with time management rather than just in general support. Someone said my older siblings. I call my sister a lot when I'm like really stressed because she just gives the best advice. So peers in your school, like friends and upperclassmen, are really good resources, teachers and guidance counselors. Peer mentors, like Let's Get Ready coaches, friends, guidance counselors. These are great responses. All right. So thank you so much for sharing. So here's a list. Oops. Here's a list. Ooh, here's a list of, no, what the heck? Did I go backwards? Yes, this is what we're on. So here's a list of potential people you can ask for help from at the beginning of and throughout your college journey. So like many of you mentioned, they can be upperclassmen, professors, academic advisors, school counselors, staff at any identity-based centers on campus, and of course, Let's Get Ready coaches and tip sheets. I personally found it helpful to go to my own Let's Get Ready coach, like someone mentioned, peer mentors, for help. Oops. So, I went to my coach for help because my coach felt like a peer and friend to me, so that made them more accessible in a way. But on the other hand, I was also able to foster a close relationship with my advisor, um, which someone also mentioned, like guidance counselors. I did that by setting up and reaching out to set up meetings with her just to update her on how my classes were going. So it's not that your relationship with your guidance counselor or your academic advisor has to be constrained or contained in just setting your schedule. Definitely reach out to them. They're a very great resource as well. Okay. So keep in mind that every school is different and can have different resources for their students, but these resources are usually common at most schools. Also, if one of these things is extra important to you, you can use that to help you decide what schools you want to apply to as you build your college list as well. So, deciding on your priorities in college. Why do I need to know what my priorities in college are? Surely it'll be academics. But actually, oftentimes we think of balancing responsibilities as kind of being equal, like a equal 50 split between academics and probably like your personal life. But this actually isn't the case for many students. So while academics will always be a priority, hopefully, they likely won't be your only or maybe even your number one. So for example, many students care about gaining professional experience to improve their resume, like a lot of you did mention in the beginning in the Padlet, building relationships with potential mentors, creating community and lifelong relationships, and having new experiences and expanding their horizons. Also, many students are involved in activities outside of the classroom, like I'm in a public health club and a pep band in school, so clearly not everything in college is going to be about academics. So here's another question for you all. What is one thing from this list or beyond it that you really want to get out of your college experience? And feel free to type your answers in the chat for that. So a lot of these, as expected, kind of revolve around the professional fields and beefing up your resume. I'm trying to do that right now as we speak, actually. I'm trying to reach out to like research things, new opportunities, exploring new things. College is all about learning. Very valid. Okay. All right. So thank you all so much for responding. Those were great answers. But given time, let's get on to that. So thank you all for responding, but know that your priorities can shift throughout your college career. And it's important to consistently check in with yourself and talk to people who are a part of your support system whenever you need to. Okay, so we'll be taking a 5-minute break before continuing. So feel free to go grab a drink. I've been drinking my coconut water, or to stretch a little. And I'll be playing some music until break is over as well. There's no awkward silence for me. And feel free to chat in any questions if you have, and we'll answer them when break is over. Okay. Okay. So hopefully everyone is back. Welcome back if you are, hopefully. So a quick reminder, Sarah put it in the chat, but we do have a raffle going on. So do be on the lookout for that. But we will be moving on to the rest of the workshop. So, concern number 3, being in a new environment. So college is obviously a big transition, not only academically, but also socially and emotionally. Many students feel hesitant to leave family, friends, significant others, their high school community, or their home when going on to college. Others can't wait to make new friends and experience things outside of the current school or living situation. If you want to stay close to home, to family, to community, for example, you might want to consider the possibility of living at home or commuting to school, or looking for schools that are in a similar environment to where you're from. So, for example, if you're from a rural community, you might not want to attend school in the city. But if you want to experience something different, even though that might be intimidating at first, that's okay too. So it all just depends on what you're comfortable with and what you want for yourself in college. There are a bunch of different reasons why a school might be a personal fit for you or not. And what's listed here, sorry, I can't get my words out. What's listed here is just a few common things that students often consider. Even people who do have things in common with us might be looking for different things or have different social, emotional, and physical needs from us. And the needs that students typically have are related to their goals, values, identities, life experiences, personality, preferences, physical health, and or mental health. For instance, I knew I wanted to be in an environment that would allow me to explore my identity and career goals, which ultimately led me to apply to more schools in cities where there's a diverse community and student population. In another example, if you felt a sense of being other in high school, or if you felt like your identity was marginalized in ways that didn't feel good, researching schools that are, for example, queer, disabled, or undocumented friendly can be one way of setting yourself up to have a stronger support network and sense of community in college. But again, everyone's going to have a different set of needs that would make a certain college environment more comfortable and enjoyable for them. In college, you'll have a lot more choice over what type of school you attend and can choose a place that feels like a fit for you and your social, emotional, and physical preferences and needs. So now, you already know some things about what you like and don't like in learning, living, and social environments from your existing experiences in school up to this point. So for this activity, you're going to reflect on what you did and or didn't like about your schools up to this point. So we're going to put you all now into breakout rooms in groups of 2 to 3 for about 6 minutes. And you'll be reflecting on the questions on this slide in order to begin picturing what you want your college community to look and feel like. I'll also be having a few of you share any interesting insights that come out of your conversations after these 6 minutes. Welcome back. Can we have 2 or 3? I'm not muted, am I? Okay. Can we have 2 or 3 people share any interesting insights that came out of your conversations?
So for my little group, we kind of had similarities with our answers. We kind of all come from like small community of like a public school, and we all kind of have like similar bonds with each other. And something that we want different in college is like more of independence and like freedom, because obviously there's like that staying like at home our whole lives, and then there's like, going into the world, living by ourselves, and all that. So that's kind of something that we're like excited for and kind of scared of as well.
Yeah, the independence can be very exciting, but also like very intimidating at the same time. So that's a great answer. I also came from a community of people who also like had this one specific view, and I wanted to go out into college and explore my own beliefs. So that is a great answer. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Can we have one more group?
Me and my, sorry.
No, you're
Me
good.
and okay. Me and my group, like my group member, we both come from like the same city, and we talked about how we probably also prefer like a city environment still because it's like more diverse. And I also mentioned how like it might be easier to find like opportunities in a larger city.
Yeah, that's so valid. I think there's a lot that you can get out of a city as well, since there's such a diverse group of people. That is a great answer, and I'm so surprised you guys are from the same city. That's so funny. Okay, so thank you all so much for sharing. We're going to move on because of time. Thank you so much for sharing. There are many different types of schools, which you can explore in our types of school tip sheet, and the link to that will be put into the chat for you all. Mission-driven schools can create spaces for students, especially for students from historically marginalized communities, to be in a learning environment where their identity is celebrated and where they might have more in common with students, staff, and professors. Typically, schools that have larger populations of specific groups of students might invest more in supports and curriculums that match students' interests and experiences, or students may simply just have a larger range of peers in school that they can relate to on different aspects of their identity. For example, Hispanic serving institutions, or HSIs, have at least 25% Hispanic or Latino undergraduate school environment. And on a more personal note, I myself am currently attending Barnard, which is an all-women's college, and I'm really enjoying it. So look into those schools if you're interested in mission-driven schools. So many colleges are historically or predominantly white institutions, or PWIs, which could create a sense of culture shock for those who haven't spent time in those spaces, especially because these schools can feel like they center whiteness in many ways. But because of this, students with various identities might feel marginalized on some campuses. But also keep in mind that every college is different. They have different school cultures, and the experiences of POC students at predominantly white institutions range depending on the students. But there are also over 5,000 colleges and universities in the US, so you have so much more choice in like choosing a college rather than choosing a high school. And of course, remember, no matter where you choose to go, there will always be peers, mentors, and spaces where you can find support, whether they are inside or outside of campus. Okay, I'm now going to ask you all to take a moment to read through this list. And while you're doing that, keep in mind that every school is different, but there are some things that are common at most schools. The general goal here is to like familiarize yourself with different ways that students can find support in college. These can range from identity-based spaces to interest-based student organizations. Because ultimately, when schools support our physical, social, and emotional needs, we're much more able to find a fitting community and new spaces, such as college. Now, take a moment. I'm going to ask you to take a moment on the question here, which is, what's one interest or aspect of your identity that you want other students at your school to share with you? And you can write this down silently, or you can chat it in, or even send it through private chat to me. But there's no pressure to share if you'd rather do that privately as well. We're going to move on from that, but hopefully you had the time to kind of collect your thoughts on that, maybe write it down privately. But we'll now be moving forward with the final common concerns students have about college. Before we move on, does anyone have any questions? You can unmute. if you have any. Okay. Okay. Feel free to drop them in the chat if you do, and I'll get to them as we go. Perfect. Okay, so in this section, we'll begin to talk about the financial cost of college, but this is just an introduction to college financials, and we'll have a whole workshop dedicated to college affordability later on. And the goal of talking about it now, though, is to share tips on how you can think about cost as you begin to build your college list so that you can be sure to include affordable college options in there as well.
Today. Oh my God, what is that?
Okay.
Oh my God, what is that?
Okay. So that TikTok is very relatable because this price tag figure might look wild at first glance and is called the sticker price or full cost of the private college Syracuse University. Now, despite the fact that this is their official cost of attendance, most students never end up actually paying this amount. However, looking at this can provide a good example of expenses to anticipate, and we'll be breaking down what a sticker price is on the next slide. Okay, can I have a volunteer read the slide?
Do I just read the whole thing?
Yes, if you can.
Okay. Sticker price, the college's published price, tuitions and fees, room and board, etc. Scholarships and grants, merit or need-based aid money that you don't have to pay back, net price, what you actually pay, typically with loans, savings, and income. Value is educational and lifetime advantages each college offers you as compared to the net price you pay.
Thank you. Okay, so if you look at the sticker price of most colleges, especially four-year colleges, it's a lot of money usually. But to be clear, that's rarely the amount of money that students actually pay. And realistically speaking, your family would probably have to be pretty financially comfortable to not receive any financial aid from a college or university. It's also important to note that many students, not just the highly academically performing ones, receive scholarships from schools as well. So as you can see, the net price is the actual cost of a college degree. Now let's talk a bit more about loans, as a lot of us may be thinking about and considering it to pay for college. Okay, so I have a question for you all. Have you been hearing about the news about the Supreme Court and student loans and student debt forgiveness? You can raise your hand, your Zoom hand if you have. So a few of you have, which is great. Okay. So thank you all for responding. Let me check the chat. Yes, but I don't know too much about it. Okay, so there are definitely resources to learn more about that, but students usually have like a range of emotions when it comes to thinking about college financials and student loans. And I think there are, okay, yeah. Okay, so students usually have a range of emotions when it comes down to this paying for college shenanigan. These feelings typically range from intimidated to nervous to even confident when it comes to thinking about your ability to pay for college, and keeping college costs low. But whatever you're feeling, know that that's okay and perfectly normal. Finances are a big deal and can be very scary and stressful, but there are resources and information online to help you with affording college. And our moderator will actually be putting in the chat a link to learn more and take action to support student loan forgiveness. So I think the link to that is in the chat. So definitely check that out. if you want to learn more about that. Okay, here's a list of different approaches you can take to build a college list that includes some affordable options and financial safety schools, which are schools you're pretty confident you will get into and are likely to cost less. So low sticker price schools are usually community colleges, public and state universities, which might help relieve costs like room and board, low tuition schools, and tuition-free schools. I know that the CUNY system, which stands for the City University of New York, offers free tuition if you're a New York State resident and if your family earns under a certain amount. But definitely check that out if you are looking into that. So even though they're more rare, there are definitely some tuition-free schools out there, as long as you do the research and try to find them. And a good amount of private schools also promote that they meet 100% demonstrated need, which usually means that they have good financial aid. Some schools also offer merit-based scholarships and sometimes even full-ride scholarships. But also note that financial aid does function differently for undocumented students, but schools with low sticker prices and or schools that meet 100% of demonstrated need for undocumented students are usually a good starting point. Scholarships will also be important and helpful, especially for undocumented students. Now that we have covered some of the top student concerns, we're also going to reflect on your personal motivations for attending college. So the goal of the next 15 minutes is to start clarifying on what we call your personal why. And your why is what's going to motivate you and kind of carry you forward when you hit the bumps on the road. It'll fuel you as you do the work of applying to college as well and help you remember that at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it. Okay, so stepping back to talk about motivations in general, motivations can either be internal and intrinsic, which is something we feel strongly drawn to and feel fulfillment when we do it, or external and extrinsic, which is something that gets rewarded, like socially, financially, etc. It can also be something that those close to us want for us, or something society just seems to expect from us. So for example, there's a difference between reading a book because you enjoy it versus reading a book for perhaps a class assignment. It's very normal to feel connected and motivated by both internal and external motivators, but it's also important to find a balance between these and know that what is important to us and know what is important to us so that we can make decisions that we'll stick with and feel happy with in the long term. So when I was applying to college, my biggest motivations were building a financially stable future for myself, giving myself more career options, and it's also one of my life goals to help my parents retire comfortably. And to me, the most realistic way of achieving all of these goals while also being happy with what I was doing was to go to college. Now, you'll get a chance to reflect on your why. And for this, we'll do some reflection and writing. So the purpose of this exercise is to consider what motivates you. And there are obviously no wrong answers. This is just intended to bring deeper awareness to what these things are for you. So write down your responses, whichever of the prompts here feel right for you. And afterwards, we're going to get into small groups to share. But you don't have to share everything that you wrote, just share what you feel like sharing. So we'll have around 3 minutes. These are such thoughtful answers. Thank you guys so much for responding. Okay, so because of time, we're going to move on from this, but those were great examples that you all gave in the chat. All right, so now you'll be put into breakout rooms in groups of 2 to 3. And in your breakout rooms, you'll all be reflecting on the questions on this slide and sharing some of your answers with your group mates. Some things that you might want to consider are what in particular feels personally fulfilling and or motivating to you. And do any of these motivations feel extrinsic and external? So just a reminder, in case you forgot, this would be something others want for you or something you feel like you're supposed to want. And feel free to share whatever you feel comfortable with sharing. So welcome back. Can we have, again, like 2 groups share any interesting insights that came out of their conversations? Yes.
So for me and my group or partner or whatever, we kind of have the same views. So our why for college is to like gain more knowledge and to gain the skills necessary to achieve our goals, to make connections and overall just to succeed. And for our motivation, it was personal growth and fulfillment because like as I shared earlier, I want to see myself in the future succeed and thrive and to be happy.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I like that you included like not only your own fulfillment, but also like making connections with people. So definitely, like we said before, it's not all about grades. There's also other things like the ones that you mentioned. Thank you so much for sharing. We have one more group. We're running a little bit behind on time. So if you're typing something up, feel free to put it in the chat, but we're going to move on from this. So even though internal motivations tend to be better motivators, many students also place importance on external motivators as well. And where it becomes imbalanced is when it feels like we're going against what's truly right for us in order to make others happy. But from your responses, and from what you guys have shared, I think you guys are doing a great job at balancing those two. And in order to make decisions that are aligned with what we want for ourselves, we need to get clear on what our top personal motivators are. These can guide us through our decision making and show us where we're willing to compromise and where we're not willing to compromise. So keep reflecting on your personal why and motivators, because next week your Let's Get Ready coaches will also be reaching out to you to talk about them. Okay, perfect. So today we talked about some of your concerns related to college and how some of the most common concerns can be navigated and minimized. You also reflected on your personal motivations for going to college and which of these motivators are most important to you. But this is just the beginning of the whole conversation. And we'll continue talking about a lot of what kind of college experience you want to have, especially as we start to create your college lists. So make sure to attend our next workshop where we'll be talking more about how to use this year to get ready for college applications and decisions. We'd also love to hear your feedback. We actually updated this workshop based on what students shared with us last year, so your feedback is really important to us. Richard, if you could also put the link to the form in the chat, that would be great. But you could just scan this. Another second for that, just in case. Okay, so how are we doing on time? We have like 2 minutes. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. But you're also always welcome to reach out to ask questions for support and to share thoughts anytime as anything comes up for you. I'll also type my email into the chat again in case you missed it in the beginning. So feel free to reach out to me. about anything that was confusing